Hello, hello. Uh-oh. All right. This time they're not affecting my speaker. Nah, that's ridiculous. See, before I come on, I click onto a thing that makes sound, and if I don't hear it through this, then I connect it right. And sometimes they even mess with this. Somehow they're doing that. Anyways, it's not just once, it's a few times. So we're gonna watch a video on the Shroud Turin again. This is the most inclusive video, and the remarkable thing about it is they just recently, like within the last 10 years, the only way they could depict that that was fully of Jesus is with what they have now. So it's mind blowing. Scientists left being scientists for it. That's how real Jesus is. And he told people life is in the blood has a few different meanings. The life is in the blood when you eat it, pestilence and disease, or spiritually, the life is in the blood of that person. So whether it's evil, then that's not the blood of Jesus, and they're not wearing the garment of Jesus. That's the garment. That's what's building you the garment, and your works here on earth are adding to your treasures in heaven. So, and then we're gonna go into after we watch this because I'm in the New Testament now, my fifth read of the Bible. Second teach. I believe I've taught it almost twice now on my YouTube. So 3 years it takes uh, a year and a half to teach the Bible properly. So, which God's given me a lot, and I don't expect it from God. These things, this service I do for the Lord is for His children. It's not for myself. He's taking care of me on the side. That's why He said, "Feed my sheep." So that's what I do. So we're gonna watch this small turn video. Okay. And it's best one, it's the best updated one. And also they analyzed the blood, and the Father's not of this earth. Oh, whoa, I'm hitting a touchy subject. I'm ringing bells, I'm taking names. This is a touchy subject. This is what they want totally gone, which will be gone soon. Anything like this ain't gonna be around for long. Okay? This proves beyond the shadow of that Shroud of Turin is real. It's a 2D on the Shroud, but it's a 3D image. It's an X-ray. It's crazy. You wait till you see the show and you find out it's impossible unless God had him irradiate out that Shroud of Turin. It's never happened. Never another one like it on Earth. It's the only one. They've done many testings and tried to remake it many times, and they can't do it. His radiated light, and now he says his body came out of it. I believe God took his body and got rid of it because he didn't want to leave any piece of the Son of God's body here. So in one case, He did go to the Mount of Transfiguration. What happened to his body? His flesh? That's one question we may never be able to answer. Okay? What happened to these one's flesh that he took? I believe when God visits you, I believe God's rays and him were connected. His rays inside were going home. His spirit are the rays, are the light. Our spirit is part of the light, and it has eternal light in it, but not yet. Not in this flesh. There's no eternal life in this flesh, but death. But yeah, so I wanted to play this video because this is the best video I've ever seen on a true depiction of the Turin. This proves without a shadow of a doubt. Believe in the science, even on this one, because the scientists are not scientists anymore. You get it? And they've exposed that Turin and the flowers on it and everything on it comes from Jerusalem. And even coins, imprinted coins, were Pontius Pilate's coins. And even the blood that dripped from them was the sign of Jonas. The three, right? So it's an amazing video, and yeah, we'll watch it right now. And this morning when I watched it, I didn't read the Bible. The Lord had me watch this again. I cried almost through the whole thing. Wait till you see this version of the Shroud of Turin. This is the latest version. And get it, they couldn't analyze quite for sure if it was Jesus until just a few years ago with the technology. And it takes it and shows that it's an x ray, a photo. It's insane, Jerry. That's why I saved it. This is the and the last one I had was really good. But this one proves beyond the shadow of a doubt. And you know how it says don't believe in the science? Well, these scientists gave their lives to God. There's proof here on this earth 100% that Jesus. They have his crowns, they have his nails. Who knows? The cross is probably put into one of their buildings, guys, and people don't see it. I don't know about that. Who knows what happens to Jesus' body because it radiated out of there? So, what happened to the righteous bodies? Where do the bodies go so that they're not defiled? What does God do with these ones that He takes into heaven? That answer, I don't know. Of the ones that He comes and takes Himself, I believe He transforms that Himself. He transforms them Himself. That's what I believe. Jesus, we don't know. But this one talks about the body going up. No, his radiated light came out. That's the only thing about this video. He's a radiated light. It's like a microwave light. And it even shows on the. But let's get into it. I'm going to have to set it up so that it can be seen without being a pain in holding it. So put the speaker on.
In early 2018, researchers in Rome unveiled a 3D carbon copy of what Jesus looked like, based on measurements of the Shroud of Turin. The Shroud of Turin is a 14-foot linen cloth that is believed to have wrapped the body of Jesus Christ after his crucifixion. The statue is a three-dimensional representation in actual size of the man of the shroud, created following the precise measurements taken from the cloth. Giulio Fanti, a professor of mechanical and thermal measurements and a scholar of the Shroud of Turin, used his own measurements of the impression on the shroud to create the carbon copy. Professor Fanti has studied the shroud for the last 20 years and led the research team that created the 3D model of Jesus. Based off the model, they are able to tell he was nearly 5 feet 11 inches tall, whereas the average height at the time was around 5 feet 5 inches tall. Researchers believe that they finally have the precise image of what Jesus looked like. And based on the marks on the Shroud of Turin, Jesus received a total of at least 600 blows. The sculpture of his tortured body reflects these wounds. Professor Fanti said, "I counted 370 wounds without taking into account the wounds on his sides, which the shroud does not show because it only enveloped the back and the front of the body. We can therefore hypothesize a total of at least 600 blows." Professor Fanti goes on to say, "We have studied for years the image left by the body on the sheet, using the most sophisticated 3D technologies, and the statue is the final result." The University of Padua and Padua Hospital worked in collaboration with sculptor Sergio Rodella to create the life-size image. Now, I read about 20 different articles on this topic, hoping to read about how they made the actual 3D copy itself. What technique or machine did they use? Did they sculpt it by hand, or did they use some kind of 3D printer? But not one article or video covers that information. However, I found another video from July 2017 of a 3D statue made out of bronze, and the statue itself is, from what I can tell from the video, identical to the 3D carbon copy statue, as his pose and marks on the body look the same. They explain the process in making the statue in the About section on that video, and this is what they said. The shroud is encoded with 3D information that is found from the spaces between the highest and lowest points of the body, its distance from the cloth. Recently, a VP8 analyzed topographical information about the Moon and Mars terrain was used on the cloth. A 3D holographic image was formed of the face and body. An artist then used the exact dimensions of the 3D shroud image to create a bronze replica of the physical form of Jesus Christ.
We have real blood, proven scientifically. We have an image that's neither painted, nor photographed, nor scorched, nor rubbed, or in any way made by the hand of a man. The image on the shroud is definitely not manufactured, meaning made intentionally to fool us.
This shroud has been wrapped around the body of a man who was tortured, flagellated, crowned with thorns, crucified at the time of the Roman Empire. All of which corresponds to what the Gospels tell us concerning Jesus.
The Shroud of Turin provides a great challenge for science. It's a challenge because it's a piece of cloth that contains an image with physical properties unlike any other image I have ever seen or anyone has ever seen. I have spent 32 years studying it. 32 years, half my life studying it, and yet I still don't have the answers. The man I worked with from Los Alamos called me again, and he said, "Barry, what do you know about the Shroud of Turin?" And I laughed. I said, "But I'm Jewish. And he said, me too. He was also Jewish. And he said, and explained to me that at that point, a number of scientists had taken a photo of the shroud, and he said they were so amazed that this image has such properties, they were going to put together a team of scientists to see if they could get to try and determine how this image was formed. About 2 months into the project, I remember saying to one of the other team members, what is a Jewish boy like me doing on this? And he laughed and he said, you forgot that the man on the shroud is Jewish? I said, no, I know this, I know. And then he gave me the best advice, maybe of my whole life. He said, Barry, go to Turin, do the best job you can do. God doesn't tell us in advance what the plan is, but one day you'll know. And this was great advice. And that kept me on the team. I was going to quit. But because of his words, from God maybe, through his lips, I stayed on the team. But the most important property of the shroud's image is the fact that the distance between the cloth and the body made the density of the image change. So the closer it was, the darker the image. The further away, the lighter the image. So the image on the shroud is not just from contact, because it worked at a distance from the body. So the correlation of cloth to body distance yielded different densities of the image. So when we looked at it with the VP8, we saw the natural relief of a human form. Now, how do we make images like that? We cannot duplicate this. And this three-dimensional information is the only image in the world that has this property.
The only
This image
one.
imprinted on the shroud was revealed in even more detailed relief in 2005, when it was transformed into a three-dimensional image. This was achieved by Dr. Soons, a doctor in Panama in Central America, who specializes in three-dimensional imaging.
The thing that stopped me from accepting the shroud as authentic for years, 18 years, the blood on the shroud is still red. Old blood should be black or brown. And no one could answer for 18 years, why is the blood on the shroud still red? And then in 1995, in a telephone conversation with Dr. Alan Adler, Jewish blood chemist, who proved, by the way, the blood on the shroud was blood, proved it.
So impossible for that to be any one. You notice how, remember, he said the life is in the blood? And he kept it red. He kept his blood red on the Shroud of Turin. And there's flowers on it that you can only get in that area where he. Man, this guy for 18 years didn't fully believe it was Jesus. And now he's telling you today that's Jesus Christ. And he's major scientists, and many of them, many different kinds of scientists, some of the highest kind, and they turn. That's why the scientists today are just going off what they are doing. They're not real scientists anymore. No, all the scientists' work was done already. They're just working off of that, you see? That's all that is. So this is amazing. Let's keep going. Impossible. This is impossible. The only one that was chosen. And he left his picture, his 3D image, and his X-ray all in one. Impossible. And it's 3D, but it looks 2D. So, how can you even do that unless God did it? Impossible to do that. That's the only thing on this. I've always believed the first time when I saw that when I was like 11 or something. Or I don't remember, but I always believed that Jesus went through and his light radiated through that. But what happened to his body? Nobody knows. Okay. It's like them righteous man. What happened to their body? Listen, I can only guess that they were transformed and God singed their body. But I don't know that for sure. He doesn't say what happens to these people's bodies. So anybody filling in the information, that's something you may never know. Anyways, let's keep going with this. This is amazing, man. This here, if you were to save this, and if somebody was to ask about Jesus and you were to press the button, this is the best testimony you could ever give. And the testing of the blood. Together, these two, without them, the same thing uh when he found the blood of Jesus Christ on the Ark of the Covenant, it's the exact same blood that was on the Turin. Therefore, everybody's blood is their own DNA, right? So life is in the blood. You know, Jesus, uh, he had some Gentile in him, I do believe, through his mother. So, and his mother's grandparents, I do believe, or something, right? So, Mary's grandparents. So, I do believe, because Mary was full flesh, you can't praise her as any god, even though she gave birth. You could say she's your brother and waiting for you, because I had a dream and Mary floated down and she looked like crystal. Okay. And she had a band of angels. And then Jesus came down and just like the Bible said, and I fought to get through the people to touch the hem of his garment. Twice. I had that dream twice. That's not even a joke, guys. Where there's two, that's not a joke. So I'm very blessed, but in the same sense, I'm in the same war, not if sometimes worse. And it doesn't matter because worse doesn't mean, hey, I'm great because I went through more, so I'm going to be loved more. But that's what the Bible talks about. It tells about the people that have more trouble. Okay. The ones that have been forgiven most are the ones that will hold on the most. Did you know that? That's not taught in the church today. Look it up in the Bible, Google it. Say to Google that scripture, what I just said to you. Okay? They're not teaching that. I should do it, right? But I have to go back because I just forgot. God gave you guys that hint, not me, because I just forgot what I said. Wow. You see that? Sometimes it's just for you guys. This isn't just for me, man. I don't do this at all for myself. Not one bit. I do it because I ask and I cry out to the Lord every day to speak through me, no matter what I'm going through, and how much I love Him and thank Him all day long for absolutely everything. And as soon as the darkness starts coming in, all I do is start thinking of the Lord and listening to the music, and it goes away. And I'm fighting the good fight of faith along with you guys. So let's finish listening to this and watching this video, because this is the most outstanding video I've ever seen, proving without a shadow beyond a doubt, not even a speck of doubt, 100% Jesus Christ. Proof of him being a man. And he even predicted it partially, and people don't realize life is in the blood. And that's why he kept it red, too. It's supposed to go brown. I've seen it do that when it goes brown. When it's exposed to air. His was so pure that it wouldn't go brown. That's crazy. The only person's blood, and the same blood found on the fake Ark of the Covenant, the one they put under there. The real Ark of the Covenant today is Jesus Christ, and we're the Turin. That's what this book says. The people of the Bible. Whether old Bible or not, that's what he means, the people of the Bible. Even though it's the Old Testament, it means people of the Bible, his children that he talks about. And we go through the same thing as all of them in this day spiritually. Rarely, well, we go through a lot physically when you're taking whips from Jesus because you did something wrong. Believe me, I hate those to death. I hate sin, guys. Absolutely hate it, man. I fight it hundreds of times, sometimes daily. But you know what? And sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's like 5 or 6, or sometimes it's like once or twice. Do you know what I mean? But I wish I could just wake up and then some sort of sin thought did never cross my mind again. Okay. Do you think that is possible on your last day when he raises you up? This is why I keep teaching that. You have to add that onto that. In the last day, I will raise you up. You got to remember, you're not you yet. You're being made in heaven because what's in heaven isn't on earth, too. So here, you're helping your spirit become one and be bridegroom. So we're going to get into the New Testament after this video. So, but like today, I was talking to my friend Tommy. This is mind blowing. I go to a job and I'm missing something in my kit to do cleaning. I go to do the job and there it is sitting right outside the door, a dustpan and a broom. I couldn't find one I forgot mine. And there wasn't one in the janitor room. And right by the garbage where I needed, and right where I left the dirt, there was a dustpan there. And I was like thinking after, I didn't even think about it, you know? So some people think that God don't talk to them. But listen, you're not hearing his voice in other areas. Sometimes God speaks in little things that people don't take or recollect. Okay, so this happened to me today or last week. Today I had to go in and check a couple rooms that were going to go up for rent, and there and I was thinking, oh, could be a long job, so I brought my wall mop. But something was telling me it's going to be small. So I walked in and there was a little pile of dirt just at the door. The rest of the floor was clean, just there wasn't. And around the kitchen that was right by the door going anyways wasn't clean. And so then I walked into the other room and the same thing with that one. Whoever did it right up to the very door jamb and just left a little bit. And there was a rag there that helped me do that job, polish everything. I used it for polishing first, and then I used it. It also was a weird rag. It was sewed up together like a bag. It was just a rag sewed up into a bag, and I threw the garbage in it and then threw it out. It was so convenient. I washed the both. But you're not. you got to see what I'm telling. He talks to you even the small things. You got to learn how to hear him deeply through all the noise that's going on. And that's how you do it. And he's done it. He does it to me like all the time, guys. Or when I'm driving, I'll end up taking a different road and I just realize I passed a road that's packed. You know what I mean? It just takes me the right path in many things that I do. So there's so many unseen things that we're doing for the Lord that we don't even know that we're doing. So, and that's how kind of it is becomes when you serve the Lord. You do it for no purpose but the love of God and to serve God. And because you don't want people's soul to die. That's loving and that's caring. Other people, they don't really care. They want, if you're preaching stuff that it's not what they want to hear, they want to slaughter you. Screaming and yelling at you is telling you that. They want to brutalize you. And if you were in front of them, you'd probably get strucken when this happened to me over the phone. So let's keep it up with this rest of the show proving, okay? Because that's what we're doing this small video first, and then we're going to go.
He and I were on the telephone just having a conversation. And then he told me something I'd never known before. When someone is tortured over an extended period of time, 24 hours, 36 hours, right around the time of Jesus' torture, the body goes into shock. Jesus was given no water, he was beaten, he was scourged. Consequently, he went into anaphylactic shock. After a period of time in this type of shock, the cell walls of the red blood cells begin to break down. And the liver floods the body, the bloodstream, with an enzyme called bilirubin. And when that happens, the blood stays red forever. And when I found that out, that was the last piece of the puzzle. And that pushed me over the threshold and allowed me to accept the Shroud as authentic because it gave me a scientific, credible answer to the last question I had. My life is better by 1,000% than before because the Shroud is in my life.
So he put the evidence right here to see, even for us. Like, that is, this guy, 18 years, was a scientist and fought against it pretty much, but something in him told him there was something real. And after 18 years, they finally had the technology to prove the modern link here. That's the missing link. Do you guys understand? Because without Jesus, we wouldn't have life. So they say it's an ape. Huh. You know why? They want you to worship an ape, a beast. How you get it? Darwin even didn't believe it, guys. Darwin knew better, but he didn't like God, guys. And same with anybody that uses Zachariah Sitchin. Listen, he wasn't of God, man. But he was telling stuff of God and putting his own stuff in there. And they're saying don't believe in Zachariah Sitchin, and yet they're teaching what he is in the church today. This is the problem. What they're teaching in the church today is Zachariah Sitchin teaching, theologists teaching, scholars, Pharisees, and Sadducees of today. Boom. And there's so many of them doing it for profit and gain, or some sort of like, oh, look at me, I'm the first one that comes up with anything. And no, man, the Lord will give everybody something different, man. One thing different, I can guarantee you, follow the Lord. He's going to open your eyes up to a mystery that you're going to be able to reveal to this channel as well. With lots of backup, just keep researching. That's what I do. So, researching is knocking on Jesus' door. You need to keep knocking. Each time it opens a little bit more. Knock on the door, it'll open more. Right? Keep knocking just like before. You were here and made when Jesus was made. Okay? That's the plan. You just weren't put in your flesh yet. It wasn't your time to be put in your flesh. And guess where you were? The same place Adam was. We are Adam. We did just what he did because we fell before. That's why Jesus says you're of a fallen. It says it in the Bible. We're all of a fallen. Something happened. It's called darkness on the face of the deep when he destroyed it. Everything went dark. And he repented that he made it. And he destroyed it with the flood. And he said he'd never do that with that flood again. And this is a different flood of fire. So, so what does that mean? Does that mean, oh, everything's going to be on fire? No, evil fire that falls down from heaven. That's what that means. There's a good fire and an evil fire. That also means that as well. So, as well as fireballs that they haven't been telling people of, women waking up with a fireball beside a piece of some sort of debris that's something that fell. So we don't know what's falling. What could be falling? What they're saying they're putting up there? Huh. That makes you wonder. Do they tell you what's falling? Or meteorites? Yes, in some movies they tell you. I've seen in a few movies when meteorites are hitting, the people that don't die from it are possessed. Why? Because what's falling is darkness. Anything that falls from the sky is being cast out of heaven. It has a purpose. Okay? Everything God casts out has a purpose. And if he casts them down and their stuff out, he also casts his own fireballs down too. That's when he rains fireballs, right? And they're tested, and there's 100%. This is why I'm talking about that. You know how much proof there is, and the ark was finally proved 10 years ago with the technology. They could have only did it with the technology. What do you think that is? That's Jesus Christ trying to wake people up and say he's real. And yet, this proof is there. There's so much proof right now that Jesus is who he said he is. And they they don't, I can guarantee it. I sent this to a friend. Huh, I'm talking about Jesus with them. And they're going to deny it. If they deny it this next time, man, I don't know what they're doing. But I'm going to send it out slowly to other friends that I don't really talk to and associate with. This is why I need. This is why I gotta keep Facebook. I gotta get it back, right? So, because these are the this video is the one that needs to be shared the most. Look up. There's just look up anything. It's all happened. Exodus. They found that. Oh, they found the Ark of the Covenant, the blood of Jesus in a different spot. As it is in where his burial was on Golgotha, the hill of the giant. All right. The giant's skull was underneath that as well. Huh. I bruised thy heel. Physically, Jesus died over top of him, and for him dying, that's when he won, right? When Jesus died for us, he won for us. You see? The keys to hell, life and death, and hell and the grave, where art thou sting? And he went through all of your sins and made that path for you and stored it in the storehouses, it's called, in heaven, treasures in heaven, the mansions in heaven. You see that? And you're building it here today, because as on earth, in as in heaven. And people say, that's false teaching. No, man, you can't change it, as on earth, as that's God's prayer. They don't like to admit it. They don't teach that in the church either. So, wow, the Lord's just teaching this stuff right through me. And I'm like, and he's storing it right up instantly. As soon as I teach it, it's gone. Wow. Anyways, let's get back to finish the story, because it's still miraculous. And I'm talking about things that hook to the story. The Noah's Ark, that hooks to the biblical. They even changed it. The scientists are even changing it, saying Adam and Eve were the two people that survived on a mountain, not on not Noah on a boat. You see what I mean? Was watching something on Netflix and I knew it was evil. And soon as the guy started yakking, I was like, "Wow, this is going to be awesome." I was doing a teaching on it, and playing it, and I had to stop doing it. God said that's not how it went. I wouldn't be playing that, so I shut her down. I knew that right away, and it's called something, the apocalypse of something, in its scientist view. Oh, there's no giants. Like, how can you hide? Just Google giants, bones. Come on, guys. There were giants up to 200 feet tall at one time, called cloud eaters, guys. And that I'll give Stephen Quayle right on that. He called them the cloud eaters. And that's what it says in the books of them, of these guys that were that big. Can you imagine running into someone that's as tall as the clouds? So when I saw Jesus in my dream coming in on the clouds, on a pink cloud, he came on, purple cloud, whatever, it's kind of pinkish purple. Eh, he was huge. So can you imagine how big how big he is? He's a son, SUN, the two sons in one. But let's and God is the light of everything. And he gives the same, almost like the same light as his light to Jesus. And Jesus moves back and forth. He feeds the moon light. And the moon, how come the moon is talking with God? Where people can't depict what that means. The moon, she will not give her light. That's us. Because there will be a time when we'll be taken away uh, because the wrath will be coming, and they won't find anybody at all to teach the word of God. And they're going to wish they did, and they're going to blaspheme us, the ones that were teaching them, and blame it on us again, saying it was his fault because he didn't teach me enough. That's what that is. They're going to be blaspheming Jesus, because they're going to be blaspheming you, and they're going to be blaspheming their own spirit, because it's supposed to be one with them, and saying it's not one with them. Do you see that? Because they're doing evil to their brothers, man. So the Lord put me through that extremely so that I could teach it. Do you see? I had to walk through that, guys. Anybody on my channel knows that. They saw it. They saw Many people coming in and casting down. You're wearing your tattoos. You're this. You're that. Oh, that's the wrong teaching. This is the wrong teaching. All that does is prove that to me that it's the right teaching. So when someone does that to you, you're hitting a nerve because they don't like the truth, right? And these books tell you all the stuff that I've been teaching before I even knew really what it all was. And the Lord put me through it and I saw it, right? So, and as I was reading it through the Bible and seeing it through that as well, how does that even happen? How do you coerce walking? Because the Bible's alive. You're going to live through it. It's not going to be exactly the same as the monkey next to you, let's say. And I'm just kidding about that. It's a little bit different than the next guy. Everybody's walk, and according to their sin, Jesus has to work with those ones harder. Listen, guys, I was almost at the death of my sin, ready to be taken. I can tell you right now, I should have been eating dust and dirt and fire when I came to the Lord, even when I was in the Lord. How does that even happen? He's hidden things. Okay. You're not supposed to tell your buddy about everything that you've done. Okay. So, and this was a long time ago, and it doesn't matter, right? It has to purge out of you. It talks about that in the Bible. Once again, today on this book I was listening to talks about that as well. It has to manifest. Given in his bosom. I forget that one. Pressed down. Pressed down and given into his bosom. Yeah, that's the one that talks about. I need to actually punch that in to get it in to show it to you. But that's what it talks about, and they're not teaching that other. So, uh, so if someone committed so many dark sins, he's got indignation, bad indignation come against him. Even if he gives himself to Jesus, God is going to take him in his own indignation. And did you know some people get washed when they get up there? Huh? What's that about? I don't know the fulling of that, but I don't know if that's what's happening now. Our spirit is being washed as it's washing us here. Our treasure is being needing us and feeding us, and you know what I mean. So that's what I think it is. But in the same sense, I don't. That's crazy. Anyway, let's keep going with this video though. He's going to come out with. I suggest if anybody hadn't been watching, play it over if you missed any of this video.
So, as a Jew, the greatest irony from my life, I'm a Jew who can say that my faith in God was restored by my study of the Shroud of Turin.
The clues that had been brought to light by the scientific research now made a medical examination of the image on the shroud possible. This examination revealed that this man had indeed been subjected to torture and that he had died by crucifixion.
We don't see a man that's just dead. We see a man whose face is swollen because his face was beaten. And you can actually see one cheek is more swollen than the other, but both are. There are scourge marks from a Roman flagrum. which was a whip with 3 leather thongs, and at the end of each was a lead weight that's shaped like a dumbbell, the weightlifters use. And his body is covered with these scourge marks, over 120.
In flagellation, as applied by the Romans, the blows not only tore the skin, but, as a result of their energy, which was absorbed in a few microseconds, they caused extremely serious internal lesions. Really a horrible torture. This was a man who, at the end of the scourging, was going to die. His kidneys had ceased to function. He was losing liters of blood. He was completely dehydrated. The man on the cross had no more than a few hours left.
More amazingly, those crucifixion wounds in the hands, the bloodstains on the shroud show crucifixion through the wrist, because the Romans knew if they crucified in the palm, you could tear it loose. But if they nail you...
Yeah, I've always said that. And people go, no, through the hands. No, because that part of the hand is actually part of the hand. That's part of the wrist. What would you call it? It's connected to both. Huh. So just use common sense on it, like the monkey can do. 2 plus 2 is 4. It's connected to both hand and wrist. And I go and tell people he was nailed here, and they get all offended and say, no, through here. But if you're nailed through your hand in the middle, it'll rip right out. Oh, I got to get this plugged in, my speaker plugged in right now. So give me a second, guys. It's screaming at me. Plug in, plug in. So I got to bring it all closer. So let's keep going with this. So, man, it's reputable evidence, man. It's mind blowing evidence. 100%. If you want someone and you want to do it, bring them to God the good way, say, I got a video for you, brother, and send them this video. Hold on a second while I unplug this. Let's go. Keep going.
Here, and the nail comes here, you can never pull this loose. We also see bloodstains covering his head, as if from a cap or crown of thorns. But not the beautiful things that the artists show us. Oh, the Roman soldiers were not going to take the time to weave a beautiful crown. They took a bush of thorns and smashed it onto his head, causing bleeding all over his head.
Every thorn that touched his flesh would have been like an electric shock for a few seconds or even several minutes. We can hardly imagine this. When we read in the Gospels, they...
So wait, I had to stop it here for a second. I don't have a long cord. When I went through what I went through when Buddy was screaming and yelling at me, and I told him I loved him and I have to let you go, brother. And my pride, I ate my pride, and one it that weekend when that came out of me, the pride, that's what it felt like to me. I was being shocked all over. That's crazy, like Jesus was. And I still am getting shocks now all over. Because I want to take the suffering of these people and I want to lay my life down as a sacrifice to them, even though I'm not in some of their presence. I wish for them good to make it to heaven because they're not going to be the people that they are here. You're going to love them because they're going to be your brother. And all's going to be forgot. You're not going to remember anything they ever did if someone did something to you and makes it to heaven. Okay? So I want everybody to go to heaven because they're going to, anybody that goes to heaven is going to be a good angel. You're going to love them because they're going to be a piece of you in them, which is a piece of God. Okay, so let's keep going with this video.
Crucified him.
And we see a wound on his side. The darkest blood stain on the entire shroud is from this wound. And the blood actually went around to his back. So we have this bloody cloth with all these wounds, and it is a perfect match to what it tells in the Gospels was done to Jesus.
This is Jesus. This is his testimony. Here is what I have done for you. Here is what the Gospels say. Here is what I'm saying. I confirm them. Here is what I have done.
Confirmed it. This is Jesus Christ you're looking
I
at.
was completely overwhelmed because a naked body, which had been tortured with traces of blood which were only too visible, should really have made me want to run away. But funnily enough, this was not what I saw. I saw a body, more than just a body, a person who seemed infinitely reassuring, filled with peace. And this wave of peace reached out to me too. And I received a very deep and indelible certainty, as though he was right in front of me and he'd said to me, "Don't worry, suffering does not have the last word. Death will not swallow you up. I've been there before you." I could say that I met him. I could say, like,
So, oh, death, where's thy sting? I'll be there. Oh, I cried when I saw this again. I'm almost crying, having a little bit of a tear going on right now. He walked through every step of hell that you should be walking through. Every footstep that you walked in personally. You know, he went down for 3 days. That could be 300,000 years for all we know. And walked through every person, every child of God's sin, and died for them when they should be hung on the gallows themselves and tortured for eternity. This is what this man did for you. He knows exactly every step that you've walked in because he went through it when he went into hell for every one of God's children. He didn't go through it for anybody but God's children. And some of them have evil problems because they were put through it their whole entire life. And I'm not giving an excuse for it. That was made to happen. There is no excuse. And God makes some of his children walk through some of the darkest pits, guys. And these are the ones that will be able to teach. And the ones that have been dark. And I'm telling you right now, I've told many people, and I'm not telling anybody any more secrets of some of the sins I did. And I almost did. Sorry. So you'd have to have some pretty evil in you to do some of the sins I've done and almost done. Okay. So, but to get on the different, let's get back onto this show.
vois ça, he exists, I've met him, this Jesus of 2,000 years ago. I have to say that it's
So I'm just going to stop it here. There's this one guy I had to get away from. I'm just going to say Controversy is the name, and that's it, of his channel. He said that's fake and they made that up. That's not Jesus. Yes, it is. And some dark colored skin say no, he's dark colored. He's dark, really dark. He's black. He's their color. You know what I'm talking about? When he's not. This is the proof. He's a Jewish guy. He's yellow, gold. Get it? Gold colored, right? Not black, not white, not East Indian dark either. Lighter than that. That's way too dark. So, almost like an Egyptian's color. Almost like a white guy. And you know that Mary had Gentile in her blood, guys. All right? So, that's some of the people. That's why some of the people, Gentiles, are his. There's a number of Gentiles, and that number's almost going to be reached soon. Anyways, let's keep going.
the Word was made flesh, the Logos. He who is the Word, he who is the truth, the life, he assumed a human body. He has placed himself within our reach so that we can reclaim our dignity. Surely it is our grief that he himself bore, our sorrows which he carried. It's as though he took the worst upon himself in order to allow us to breathe again and to continue to live after our difficulties and trials. He alone is able to transform our suffering.
I have to go get my laundry, so keep watching.
The risen body came out of this fabric of death. And in the same way, he invites us to this same resurgence, this resurrection, and he shows us that we don't have to remain in the depths, but that his presence alone is itself a reassurance and can overcome anything. Its hands are very beautiful. When I think that these are the hands which multiplied the loaves, which blessed the children and touched the blind, I see a man who is respectful, who is afraid of making me afraid. Because God is a little shy. He's shy because he's a beggar for our love. Our God, who is all-powerful, who could make the galaxies dance, is poor before me because he is waiting until I am ready to open my door to him.
This information, or the fact that the Shroud's image is a photographic negative, was discovered in 1898 and marked the beginning of a long series of photographic and data processing research.
lunga di ricerche fotografiche e informatiche.
Therefore, the negative was the first step towards discovering another important characteristic, that of its tridimensionality. This means that the variations in luminosity that we can see on the Shroud's image represent the characteristics of the tridimensionality of a face. This concept of tridimensionality had already been aired many years ago in 1902 by Paul Vignon, who was one of the most important and famous experts on the Shroud. However, it was necessary to wait until 1977 to see that when some processing typical of NASA was applied to the Shroud's image, the first three-dimensional images of the face and body appeared.
La prima immagine tridimensionale del volto e del corpo della sindone.
In 78, Italy also saw the institution of a research group studying the Shroud's image, led by Professor Tamborelli, and the data processing methodology employed gave rise to a very particular three-dimensional image, an image with detail that emphasizes that we are effectively dealing with the face of a man that had been beaten. Some marks of torture are visible that correspond to what we read and is said in the Gospels. Therefore, tridimensionality is another important aspect. But this too is hidden information. As hidden information, there is that relative to foreign bodies, to foreign objects that have been thought to be present on the Shroud's image. In particular, we can mention, for example, the imprint left by the coins. What you can see is a three-dimensional elaboration of a coin on the right eyelid that has left an almost unequivocal imprint, the presence of a question mark, and a part of the words Tiberioi Kaiseros. This, therefore, is a coin dating from 30 AD, and this would be a sort of intrinsic dating.
Join.
So maybe a coin of that city at the time, P. Pontius Pilate, if you turn a question mark upside down. I don't know. Anyways, that doesn't matter. It just proves the coin from that era of his time of death. It's so amazing. It matches it up, and the blood does as well. So it's been scientifically proven. So not on Father, not on this earth. Impossible for the blood to still be alive today because his blood is still alive. So it's part of this. That's why I'm talking about the blood. Because they found the same blood on the Turin as that they found on the Ark of the Covenant. And this was one. Now Jesus is the Ark. He's the covenant, right? So, and we're the Torah in him, his God's children, his brothers. Okay, we're just becoming the brothers. Takes a lot to go through to be a child of God, man. And same with Jesus. So you can imagine the hell he walked through when he went down there, through each and every one of our hells that we were supposed to do. He walked through. Crazy. That's why we love him so much, right?
Up with one of the few people in the world to actually have examined the shroud by hand. He discovered that clue in the cloth, the three-dimensional image.
There's something missing, and that's what was the shape of the cloth when the exposure was made. We had to provide that and complete the data set.
So with computers for the documentary, they have now recreated how the shroud would have been draped around the body. He says their 3D imaging reveals so much blood on the body.
The amount of blood we found in the Shroud of Turin was extraordinary, beyond what I had envisioned. It's very dramatic to see. He was brutalized and murdered many times over.
The face of the man in the shroud was scarcely visible until a startling photographic negative was produced. But there is an additional, inexplicable property of this image which caught the attention of 3D computer graphics artist Ray Downing. Encoded within the fibers of this cloth is 3D information which shouldn't be there. It's as if someone, using an unknown technology, hid a blueprint for constructing a three-dimensional statue within this two-dimensional image. Downing worked for over a year, extracting and refining this encoded information to create that statue, to reveal for the first time the face of the man in the shroud. This new portrait of Jesus drew worldwide attention in the news media and was the subject of a History Channel special. Inspired by quotes from the New Testament, Downing has gone on to illustrate a library of Jesus portraits based on the Shroud of Turin image, a face both hidden and revealed in time. Suffer little children, and forbid them not to come unto me. Lazarus, come forth. O my Father, if it be possible, let this...
So the picture they actually have depicted of Jesus has been right in front of them. The picture, the old picture, I have a picture somewhere, I'm going to look for it, of him. It looks almost exactly what he is, man. It's been right in front of people. His image, made in the image, you get it? There we go. Even his image is right before them. That's crazy.
Cup pass from me. If the world hates you, ye know that it hated me before it hated you. Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. I am the resurrection and the life. My kingdom is not of this world.
Somewhere there emerged three-dimensional information. To these practical scientists, it was as if they were looking at some from another planet. None of them had ever seen anything like this before.
The VP8 was the catalyst that caused the formation of the STIRP team. They said, we should see if we can figure out how this image was formed.
Peter Schumacher was a field engineer for the team that created the VP8, which was originally designed to analyze images from medical resources and satellites.
Nobody in our company had ever even heard of the Shroud of Turin, let alone seen pictures or wanted to look at image analysis of the Shroud of Turin.
What the VP8 analyzer does is plot the light and dark areas of an image onto a 3D grid.
The nose has a prominence, the cheeks roll off, the hair has a shape to it and is rounded. The whole image has dimension to it. The Shroud is a very unique image, the only one of its kind in the whole world. Nothing else like it. Three-dimensional relief, the front and the back of a whole human being. Only one in the world. No other.
There are other striking anomalies as well. For example, it has long been known that in addition to the explicit detail of the body image, there are also other images that were somehow transmitted onto the fabric, specifically the image of flowers.
I first noticed the image of flowers on the Shroud in 1985. And when I found what they looked like, then I began looking more closely and found that there were large numbers of these. I contacted Professor Avinoam Danin, the world's authority on the flowers of Israel, and took some of our photographs out there. When I handed the photograph that I'd first spotted the flowers on to him without indicating what we'd actually found, he looked at it for about 15 seconds and said, "Those are the flowers of Jerusalem." He immediately knew that this was a unique finding.
But once it was discovered that there were other images on the Shroud, Dr. Wanger began looking closer and found that there were small coins on each eye. What significance could that possibly have? Dr. Alan Wanger, in his book, The Shroud of Turin, Adventure and Discovery, points out that not only are they there, they present distinct and profound clues as to the date and origin of the image.
Father Francis Filas was professor of the theology as well as a scientist who investigated the Shroud of Turin, as well as a photographer. He was working with a group of researchers who were attempting to identify what the projections over the eyes were, thinking they might be coins. And Dr. Filas had enlargement and made excellent photographs he had of the shroud and noticed the patterning over the right eye. On enlargement of this, he noticed there were letters which he interpreted as UCAI, and something that looked like a shepherd's crook. This is typical of the lepton or the widow's mite struck by Pontius Pilate in the years in 29 AD to 33. We can identify the images of them, and so we can identify the particular coin and know the origin as well as the date, which both of them are that we identify were struck in 29 AD. So this dates the shroud back to the 1st century. It also localizes it to Israel, since these coins are just the widow's mites or the common penny of the time, and certainly would not circulate either outside of Israel or not very long after the reign of Tiberius Caesar, to which they were.
Okay, so I'm going to tell something that's going to blow your mind. A measure of wheat for a penny? Ha, ha, ha. Oh my goodness, the Lord just gave us something. A measure of wheat for a penny. He said, he predicted that they were going to put those coins in his eyes. You are the measure of wheat. He died for you. And he was worthless to them. Coins also revealing the coins that was sold for. And amongst them, penny for wheat, that's in the Bible. All you have to do is believe in Jesus. Mustard seed. Faith of a mustard seed. So you're actually giving nothing. You're just doing what the Lord has you doing here. So, whatever kind of angel you are, in this time, you're doing what the Lord has you here to do. If you're a stumbling block, then keep being that. You'll be a stepping stone. You'll be under his feet when it comes to the stomping. Darkness is coming your way. And I'm not pointing anybody out to that. That's why I always keep a picture of the Turin, because I've always known that Jesus went through that. That's the only way. It's the only one that you cannot recreate this. This has not been created by man's hands. Did you hear that? These are scientists, guys. And I can guarantee you, every one of those scientists is now a Christian. One guy, that's like the movie called A Case for Christ. The Case for Christ, he had a wall for how much to prove Christ was alive, and he had a wall of soothsayers. That's all, and it wasn't even full. The wall that he had pointing to Jesus Christ was stacked full. Have you ever watched that Case for Christ? He tried to go up against Christ and found himself with a sword that came up against him. And the Lord meant to do that. That's what the sword is for. That rules us with the rod of iron. What's the rod of iron? Things from the other world. Evil things that people release here on this earth come back on them. And they go, ouch, that hurts. And the ones that don't believe in Jesus go, nothing's going to happen to me. Those are the ones. There's no consequence for anything that I do. That's why they don't have a conscience. You guys know how many people are like that today? I'm not even going to give an estimate to the people around me with the pride in them, too. Doesn't mean they're not going to be saved at the end. Remember, they're going to get washed in heaven, some people. So let's keep going with this video because it's just mind-blowing.
Dedicated.
But how could an image containing so much information have been formed? There are those who believe the image could only have been formed by a burst of some sort of radiation. But the simple fact is, nothing like the Shroud image has ever been found or reproduced. But that's only the beginning of the astounding information to be gleaned from this amazing image.
Because it's got three-dimensional properties and X-ray properties. The three-dimensional properties in particular cannot be reproduced by anybody today. Nobody on planet Earth can put three-dimensional properties into a two-dimensional cloth. The Shroud of Turin is unique on planet Earth. I believe that the Shroud of Turin proves the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and that the image on the shroud was caused by a burst of radiation given off at the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
Okay, so let me stop it there. A radiated light. I've been telling people he's a radiated light. It's a different light. It's different than the light that comes from your fire burning in your campfire or your barbecue. It's a different fire. So if you have the fire of God in you, that's going to burn away all those evil oils. And you have those oils in your lantern. This is amazing, man. It's not even over yet. This is far beyond proving who came out of that Shroud of Turin. And I had a teacher tell me that that's fake. And I disconnected from that teacher. And he teaches about these books and teaches against them. How do you teach about them, but you're teaching against them? So I had to leave his channel, and I don't talk to him very often. He has a PayPal button. Get it? And the way he was begging, this guy was supposed to be a pastor going, hey, there's only 33 people giving money here. Like, who does that? That's a begging bag. Let God put it onto their hearts and they'll give. Okay? If you need help with money and you're going to down to that level, then it's okay to ask your brother for help. But not tell them they should be more paying more money. They should all be more given their tithes. That's the wrong tithing. That tithing comes within the person's heart, and the God will tell them, tithe to this guy, tithe to him. I tithe to quite a few people, but I don't anymore. Let's keep going with this video. I tithe in different ways now. Spiritually.
Right, we're going to start with image 46. Those of you who've been to the Garden Tomb in Jerusalem, which I believe is the tomb in which Jesus was actually buried, will have seen inside the Garden Tomb the limestone tomb, image number 46, please, in which Jesus was buried. Now, the actual limestone of that tomb is a particular type of stone, which is only found in ancient tombs in Jerusalem and nowhere else known on planet Earth. It's actually called travertine aragonite. Now,
okay, so that means flowers. That means everything only points to that. That's so much evidence. It's conclusive. That's Jesus Christ that came out of that Turin. He predicted it. A measure of wheat for a penny. He gave his life for so many, for so little. Just in the mustard seed faith, that's amazing, man. Just in you keeping that faith and never turning on him and saying he's gonna forsake you. Be careful in this time. That's what's making people fall and turn away from him. They're saying that where is God? He's not in my life. So that's why I'm pointing out something in little things that I see him then in. I don't see him in my dreams all the time. I don't hear his voice audible very often. But I see in the little things like putting brooms in places where I wouldn't even imagine, where I had to pick up a pile of dirt that I put there and the garbage was over on the other side. And I didn't realize I even did that. And there was a broom in there. I couldn't find one anywhere else. And it was right where I needed to. I didn't have to look. It was there already. I didn't even go. I went to go, oh, there's a broom for me right there. He does that for me like sometimes 2 or 3 times in an 8-hour shift, almost every day. So I hear him speaking to me. I'm going to make some things easy for you. Okay. Physically, but spiritually, you're in this war. So, and he does it with my job because it's a perfect job. Now I can come home and teach because I only work like up to 7.5, 8 hour, or 7.5 is the longest shift I work. So let's keep going.
Scientists called Joseph Kolbeck and Richard Levi-Setti, American scientists, they found that there were traces of this particular very rare limestone on the shroud. They found some of these on the nose of the shroud, the left kneecap, and both heels. And they say that the Shroud of Turin was definitely in Jerusalem because they don't know anywhere else on planet Earth where travertine aragonite is found. What you're looking at now is actually Dr. Max Fry, who's a pollen specialist, a member of the STIRP team, Dr. Max Fry, and he's actually a botanist, and he found lots and lots of pollen and spores on the shroud. And he found that it had lots and lots of different spores and pollen of plants found only in Jerusalem. And that's Dr. Avinoam Danin, a botany professor at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. He found Zygophyllum dumosum, the spores of that plant, and he found the spores of a next plant, Guandelia 2040. And he said that the shroud definitely came from Jerusalem. Further evidence of the shroud is sudarium, which was the linen cloth over the face of Jesus. Now that shroud, the sudarium of Oviedo over the face of Jesus, is actually in a wooden or oak chest in Oviedo in Spain. And again, Dr. Alan Wang has studied that and found that the blood type is type AB, which on both the Shroud of Turin and the Shroud of Oviedo, and the blood marks exactly match the blood marks on the sudarium of Oviedo exactly match the Shroud of Turin, which means they were both placed over the same corpse. That is very, very significant.
All right, let's read from Scripture. Matthew 20:18. Behold, we go up to Jerusalem, and the Son of Man shall be betrayed unto the chief priests, and they shall put him to death, and shall deliver him to the Gentiles, to mock and to scourge and to crucify him, and on the third day he shall rise again. All right, now let's compare to what's written in Scripture to the forensic evidence on the Shroud of Turin and see if it matches up. No less than 7 forensic pathologists confirm without doubt that a genuine person made contact with the shroud. He was dead, he was mocked with a crown of thorns, he was scourged, and he was crucified, and there's no evidence of decomposition on the shroud, meaning that the body that was in there was not there very long, less than 3 days. We know for a forensic fact a man in the shroud was dead. The knees are in a locked position from rigor mortis. Who buries someone with their knees raised? Unless the body was in rigor mortis and you were in a hurry to get the body in the tomb. Just like the historical record in the burial of Jesus. There's a post-mortem side wound. That's a no-brainer. That means the person is dead. First stage of rigor mortis is what? The eyelids, the neck, and the jaw stiffen up. And you can see on the man in the shroud, his jaw is stiff. It's locked up. I mean, you could see visible teeth. And the final clue, the slightly swelled stomach. That doesn't happen until 48 hours after death. So the man in the shroud has been dead for 48 to 72 hours, and then his body was risen during the image process. So this matches the whole passage right from the beginning. The man in the shroud, he's mocked, he's scourged, he's crucified, he died, and on the third day he rose. He was risen. That is what the forensic evidence says happened. In order to have distance information on the shroud, to have colored versus uncolored fibers, which represents the distance the body was to the cloth at the time the image was formed. That means what? That means the body had to be raised off the ground. There had to be a separation between the cloth and the body, and that means risen. So the man in the shroud was risen after 3 days. Bear in mind, the bloodstains are first and the image is over the bloodstains. They are two separate events, and the forensic evidence tells us that this image process took place 48 to 72 hours after the blood made contact with the cloth. Those are the forensic facts of the case file, and they are indisputable. Anyone in disagreement is in disagreement with no less than 7 forensic pathologists and blood chemistry experts. We know for a forensic fact wrapping a dead body in linen will not leave an image behind on the cloth. We have over 1,000 buried except this one. What this really is a 2 plus blank equals 4 type challenge, and only one answer fits. The only person this can be is Jesus Christ. He's the only person in history we know of that was mocked, scourged, crucified, died, placed in an expensive linen, and told people previously he was going to be risen on the third day. And that is exactly what the forensic evidence says happened in this case. Jesus himself said, "This evil generation keeps asking me to show them a miraculous sign, but the only sign I will give to them is the sign of Jonah." Now look at the right side of the man of the shroud on his forehead. What is that? That's the sign of Jonah. It's also on the heel, on his heel, on the back of the head, and on the sidereum oviedo 4 different times. I've never seen an.
Wow. And it's a 3. Ha ha ha! On the third day. Oh my God. That you can't even react anything about this Turin. One thing about it. You can't discount one thing. You can't. This is indisputable, impeccable, unbreakable. The sign, he gave him a sign, and he also had a wheat for a penny in his eye. In his eyes, if you can't see that Jesus Christ is the picture that's been depicted in front of everybody's face, he'll be around the whole world. The whole world will know him. His image. Man, if you needed someone to come to the Lord, you need to show them this video. Videos, you got to get it from YouTube. I'll get to it after it's done. The link.
Any crime photo in the history of my life or any morgue photo, blood take on the shape of a number 3 and be on the side of a head or on clothing or on tools or weapons or a blood splatter on wall.
So do you know why he had one on his heel? Because Satan bruised his heel, remember? By adding his seed in to man. Yeah, see, there's so many things on there that say biblical. Bible, that's in the Bible, that's in the Bible, that's in the Bible. Wow. Jesus depicted they were going to find this. Did you know that? He predicted it, but they can't see that this was a prediction in the Bible. He's showing you the predictions now. That's crazy. And he waited for a time such as this, the end time. before there was even technology to do this, guys. Wow. It's right in front of them what time we live in, even in this. Because remember, this has only been 2017, this one was remade with more evidence.
Or whatever it is. I've never seen it. I do not believe it is a coincidence. Ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at the sign of Jonah on the Shroud of Turin. Beyond any reasonable doubt, beyond any doubt, the man in the shroud is Jesus. The shroud has properties of a photonegative, an X-ray photo, and a hologram. Both a transmission hologram and a reflection hologram, but yet is neither. It is not a hologram, it is not an X-ray photo, it is not a photonegative, it is a combination of those three things. So the shroud image is what? A photographic X-ray holographic image. That said, how many other dead bodies have left a photographic X-ray holographic image behind on a burial cloth or linen as a result of making contact with it? None. So this argument, well, that could have been any person in that cloth. The Romans scourged and crucified a lot of people. That argument doesn't fly at all. We could take 1 million different dead bodies right now, all scourged, crucified in the exact manner of the man in the shroud. Pour myrrh and aloes over the bodies, wrap them in every kind of fabric ever known to mankind, and we will never get an image like we see on the Shroud of Turin. So we have established a very important forensic fact. What is that fact? Putting a dead body, wrapping it in linen, will not leave an image like the shroud behind. The only image that you would have would be the bloodstains as a result of body to cloth contact. There's not going to be a thin, superficial image over those bloodstains, to say the least. There is only one thing that we know of on this earth that match these four unique characteristics. What is that? UVB rays in the UV spectrum at a very specific speed matches all of these characteristics, and that is not a coincidence. UV light in the UVB range will cause rapid aging in skin.
So what does that come from? The sun. So who is the sun? So in Egypt pictures they show sun rays coming down with hands on the end because it comes with the Son of Righteousness, the SUN of righteousness comes with wings in healing wings. In the Bible says twice. With his rays, they heal us. With these things called the Northern Lights, guys, Aurora Borealis. And those are healing to his people. And he talks about that in these extra books. These extra books are so curricular and important. Man, are they ever. I've been listening to him. I'm still listening to him for 8 hours every day for, 4 to 8 hours a day. Every day I listen to him while I'm working. And they're unbelievable. So is this. The proof's it's right in front of them, man. UVA bees, the sun rays, those come from him. So, 2 plus 2, what's the sun? There's 2 of them. One's light of God, and in his right hand I go to my Father, Jesus said. In Enoch, the book of Enoch, it talks about him being the fire that's in between, the circles round about. And he's the one that puts that rod of iron, the fire up against us. He uses the evil. That's the rod of iron. Okay? So he uses the evil for good and good for evil. Okay? So, and that's because we have to reap what we sow. We have to reap our evil. There's no getting out of paying for it if you're God's child.
Dehydration, oxidation, meaning a chemical reaction takes place and causes your skin to turn a sepia color, a tan. and it only affects the superficial layers of your skin. Note there is a difference between sunlight and laser light. The UV light source making contact with the shroud is traveling at the same speed as UV light from the sun, but it is a different type of light. It is light of a single wavelength, which is a fancy way of saying laser light, versus sunlight, which is light photons spread out in all directions. And in fact, it would color all the fibers. It wouldn't leave some fibers colored and others uncolored. So light from the sun is not responsible for the shroud image. Immediately eliminate sunlight and camera obscura as being capable.
No, and that's a spirit. But I was just like directing to how healing in his wings is how he does with his rays, right? Not the same, right? But it's a radiated light. So the core of light, I don't know. I'm not perfect on it. I'm just playing this one out.
Producing an image like the shroud. There are 200 fibrils and one fiber of linen. Only one of them has been colored, leaving the other 199 completely untouched. And that is because those linen fibers were exposed to UV light, laser-like light of a single wavelength, made contact with the fiber. It also caused it to become dehydrated, and a chemical reaction took place, causing it to turn a sepia color. And because it's UV light of a very specific speed in the UVB range, it only affected the superficial layers of the fabric. I just described how the Shroud of Turin linen fibrils were colored. Congratulations, you just learned in part, notice I said in part, how the image on the shroud was formed. All right, let's go a little bit deeper. Is there anything in the human body that emits laser-like light? And
So that's why I couldn't really answer because nobody knows what makes it, what kind of picture, holograph, a photo, X-ray, and all these things 3D, but yet it's 2D. Impossible unless God did it. You see, that's why nobody has an answer. I don't have an answer for that. God doesn't want people to have an answer for that. That's a mystery. Same with what happened to Jesus' body. Who knows what happened? God wasn't going to leave it on the earth. People would, if they found that was if they would have found Jesus' body, they would have ravaged it, and they would have took virtue, and they would still be taking it today, right? Because he had virtue in him. All he had to do was touch the hem of his garment to find that out. And that's my dream. I had that twice, and it talks about that a couple times in the Bible. I heard it a couple days ago on one of these other ones, one of these books that people reject, talking about the exact same things as the Bible. Exact, almost the exact same way, but with the meaning, right? Changing of the word in parables, buddy. Riddles. God, I riddle you this, God says. The whole Bible's a riddle. If people didn't figure that out. And we will figure it out. God's children will figure it out, man. But not all of it. You don't live long enough. We don't live 1,000 or 2,000 years to learn it and memorize it.
the UV range? And the answer is yes, there is. Human DNA emits photons of light in each second that passes. It's laser-like light, and it is also what? It is in the UV range. In each second that passes, we emit approximately 100,000 up to 1 million photons of light.
Wow, so you get it? It's in us too. That's the God in us. Hmm. Cool. We emit it.
And every second that passes. We just quoted you a scientific fact that has been observed. That is not wild theory, that is not speculation. So we know it's possible that DNA can emit light. We believe the process is amplified. Now imagine that process amplified, as if you brought a multi-wave oscillator up to your body. A multi-wave oscillator emits moving electrical signals. It will cause your living cells to increase in AC voltage. And whatever that machine is set at, let's say it's 2 billion cycles per second, your cells will also oscillate at 2 billion cycles per second. It will match whatever the machine is set at. In a comparison analogy, if you had a tuning fork that was dead and you brought another tuning fork up to that one that was vibrating at, say, 2 billion cycles per second, the other tuning fork that was dead will come back to life again / begin vibrating at the same speed the other tuning fork vibrating at. So it will match its speed. So what we have going on in the shroud image is what? The field action of resonance. The field action of resonance is not unlike bringing life to something that was dead. Something that was unmoving now becomes moving. Something not oscillating now is oscillating. In the same way, a moving electrical signal was brought up close to the body of Jesus and caused his unmoving cells to start moving / oscillating. This caused light to emit from the DNA, which made contact with the shroud fabric. So a moving electrical signal, a source of light and radiation, oscillating in the UVB range, came right up close to the body of Jesus and caused his DNA to oscillate at the same frequency. And this particular frequency causes the DNA to emit light. And that light made contact with the Shroud of Turin. And where the cloth was close to the body, more fibers were colored. And as there was greater separation, less of the linen fibers were colored in a manner which represented the exact distance the body was to the cloth, and what we see as light as being dark. So the image has all the properties of a photo negative, also has properties of an X-ray photo, also has properties of a hologram, both a transmission hologram and a reflection hologram, yet is neither. So again, what is the shroud? It's a photographic X-ray holographic image. Beyond any reasonable doubt. Beyond any doubt, a higher power intelligence / God is involved in the image process. This creator really went all out doing this image, photographic X-ray holographic image. He loved this man. He loved this man deeply. He loved this man deeply. He loved this man deeply. But I just want to go over some final points of the shroud, some unusual aspects of the shroud image. The crown of thorns. Only Jesus was mocked as a king. And what do we see on the Shroud of Turin? 30 puncture wounds around the head from a thistle plant that only grows in Jerusalem. He's scourged and crucified. That's a contradiction. If the Romans scourged people like they did in the Man of the Shroud, that was routine procedure, they would have been nailing dead corpses to crosses. This is the most hated person in the city, and he's wrapped in fine linen. A body crucified and scourged to this degree would be thrown into a landfill, as in human garbage, not treated like a king. So this person has rich friends. And that follows the gospel account. And there came also Nicodemus, who first came to Jesus by night and brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about a 100-pound weight. That would be extremely expensive. It would never be used on an ordinary criminal. There's evidence of myrrh and aloes on the head cloth in Spain. Myrrh and aloes found in the blood by antibody antigen testing by a forensic pathologist. See, all these are all clues. Friends like Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus. On the cloth is a first century style stitching pattern. That gives us a clue as to the age of the cloth. The shroud is 8 by 2 cubits, an ancient measuring system. The image goes against how people would perceive that God would do things. When one thinks of the almighty, powerful God, creators of the heavens and the earth, making an image, we think of power. This will be a powerful imprint, as in firm contact with the linen. Yet the shroud is the exact opposite of what one would expect. Look at the two black eyes. When you look at the shrouded image when it's photographed, you can see detail. You can see that his eyes are closed. You can see the swelling more. And the same thing holds true with an X-ray photograph. An X-ray photograph on the film plate is black. It shows the bones as being black, and then the colors are inverted so the physician or doctor can see more detail. The Shroud of Turin image is just like that. When the colors are inverted, you can see the detail. You can really see the swelling. You can see the teeth. You can see that the eyes are closed. But when you look at the image on cloth, it looks like the eyes are open. As a result, you see in all the early frescoes, Jesus has his eyes open, and they're portrayed as big owl-like eyes because that's what it looks like. So we haven't even really seen the Shroud of Turin correctly until the last 118 years. Look at the vertical lines going down the sides of the face. That really looks out of place, as in, what is that? That's because the light source that's emitted from the body is coming out in a straight line. It follows the pattern of the swelling, but where the swelling drops off and the face drops down, that's where the image process stops. Because why? As we discussed in the first video, too much separation between the body and the cloth there. No image. And you really see that clearly in the face along the sides of the cheek. And then we see the blood stain off to the left, which appears to be in the hair, which is actually a blood stain from around the area of the ear on the side of the cheek. So the blood stains are out of stereo register with the body, but it proves this beyond any doubt. The bloodstains are first, the image process is a secondary event, two completely separate events, not done at the same time. And the forensic evidence tells us beyond any doubt that this image process happened 48 to 72 hours after the blood made contact with the cloth, and that fits exactly with the gospel account. This can only be one person. So the forensic science tells us what? The man in the shroud is Jesus, not just beyond a reasonable doubt, beyond any doubt.
Is 3D information which shouldn't be there. It's as if someone, using an unknown technology, hid a blueprint for constructing a three-dimensional statue within this two-dimensional image. Downing worked for over a year, extracting and refining this encoded information to create that statue, to reveal for the first time the face of the man in the shroud. This new portrait of Jesus drew worldwide attention in the news media and was the subject of a History Channel special.
All right.
This channel is part of the History Hit Network.
In the heart of Rome stands one of the most fascinating monuments in the history of Christianity.
All right, guys. See, this is what I mean. It's a faith building show. That kind of stuff. Hold on, guys. I got this all mixed up now. Huh? I do got it bad. Hold on. Hold up. Wow. Because that's what it's also about too, is building faith. You know, a lot of the times in the Old Testament, it talks about destruction over and over and over and over and over and over and over. It puts a hardship on my heart sometimes because I have a hardship for the people, right? Well, that's not what it's about. That's if some new people are in the channel and they want to see it. I'm not always teaching that. So you have to go back and listen to some of the teachings that I do. I'm not always in that area, but the Lord. Now I just rolled upon the New Testament that I'm reading because I'm teaching the Bible as I'm going. I don't come with a script or a begging bag like the Bible says. I open my Bible from where it's at, and then that's where I teach. And the Lord leads this channel. I don't lead it. I'm just the donkey being rid in by the Lord. Okay. Many dreams and many things from the Lord that I get, and a good discernment of the Bible that is hard to find. So I'm not here to try to make people and give them faith. That's just part of what I'm doing because I'm going into the New Testament as well. So, and that's what I'm doing. I'm doing. Well, I guess I'm not doing it today because it's 1:55 here on my time. So I only go about 2 hours because a lot of people say you go too long. You go too long. I can't watch it because I don't have the time. Wow. You got to go back on a lot of my videos. So and you got to watch a lot of them. So to understand some of the, anyways, I'm glad you're there to put your uh anybody's opinions. Okay. So, and I know you don't need it for faith because faith is within us. You're born with the faith of a mustard seed if you're of God. This it is for newbie. It's for if someone's new in on the channel, then they can see the truth, right? Oh, thanks. Yeah. So all I do is teach what the Lord has me to teach. And because I'm going to be going into the New Testament here right away, I just finished doing the whole. I'm on this well 3 years in YouTube, and my second teaching of the Bible just finished. Takes a long time to accurate to teach, walk in the feet of the other of the people that did in the Bible, and the Lord will make you will do that for you. You will go through the trials and tribulations. It's a tough time to hold on to the Lord, and I keep telling my friend Tommy, it's a tough time for everybody to hold on to the for that mark, that high calling. See, many are called, few are chosen, though, right? So a measure of wheat for a penny, and that's another good thing because it's interesting too. There's stuff that I didn't know. I've watched many documentaries on that, but that is the ultimate. So if you just join now, you have to rewind and re-listen to that documentary. It's 100% proof of the truth of Jesus that's right in front of them, and it's the picture that they've been drawing, and it's right in front of them. It's so close to the one they've been drawing. Hmm. You cannot make that. It's a hologram X-ray light spectrum video. Yeah, and you know, I'm going through troubles too, guys. Trials and tribulations are made for you to go through spiritual trials and tribulations, and I'm in great tribulation. Heightened of your tribulation is what that means in the Koine Greek. It means the heightened of your tribulation. Because God says, I sent tribulation for you. He didn't say I sent it on the earth for the earth to feel, but the earth goes through what we're going through because it's a body. It feels the negativity that people have on it today. And the Christian coming up against the Christian with the hooks and the jaws, the Ezekiel 39, Magog and Gog is spiritual because it's all the way back in the Old Testament. We're living in the time of that. That's happening right now. Magog and Gog, spiritual, and people can't see it. And Armageddon's right around the corner, and they're ready to press the button. They're warring and taking stuff out, nuclear plants, guys. And the people that are adding into it, it's going to cause it destruction within, if you know what I'm talking about. The war is within, one of the presidents said, because there's indignation set against the whole world. And there's war against the whole world when that button and that destroyer gets it. Might want to go back and watch my destroyer video. I got pictures of Shiva, which is Abaddon in the sky. It's called the destroyer. That's why your skies are red at night. And Jesus comes out of his thickets. Yep, Ezekiel 38:39, the hooks in the jaw. Why are the hooks in the jaw? What does that mean? When there's hooks in the jaw, what do you do with your jaw? Don't you eat and speak? You go. It's Christians God making coming up against a Christian, but woe to them who do so. It says it right in the. So, woe to the Christian, woe to the person that comes up against God's children, because that's why God's coming back, guys, for lots of revenge that's been happening to us from the start of time. Hated, hated for the truths that come out on this channel. I'm hated. Tiny. And that's good because I can talk with everybody. And these guys, most of the people that are on here today are my friends, and they're all over the world, and we talk. Cormac is from Ireland. He saw me in his dream at a bar, and he never went back to a bar. That means my spirit at his gate. That's what that is. His gate used to be a gate of opening. When you open a gate, you're opening a porthole. You're allowing evil to work on this earth as it does. You're releasing it from the abyss. And when you do that, it comes back on you. But in the churches, they had lots of sin in their life. It takes longer, and Jesus talks about that. He has to help the one out a little bit more, and the one that's forgiven the most was the ones that he loves the most. He's also said that too. Okay. So yeah, and I'm gonna come back on here. I gotta finish off my laundry, and then I'm gonna come back off and start in the New Testament. So if you're just new here, rewind and go back. There's some teachings that are pretty heavy, but I'm going to come out of those because I'm going to be in the Gospels here for a little bit here. The other books, if you haven't listened to the other books that are missing books of the Bible, I've listened to them many times. I've seen dreams that are in the Bible, though. The same stuff is in the Bible. So sometimes when I'm teaching those, it gets a little bit deep with what the sun really is and what we live on really is. Okay, so God bless you. But anyways, people don't believe in a lot of that stuff, so uh it is about faith, and this is I don't know, the Lord told me to play it, so yeah, and I might be back on today, so God bless you and thank you for coming, guys. May the Lord keep